10-year-old Malik Johnson walked into Maplewood Elementary with the same quiet hope he carried every morning, that today would finally be normal. But by 9:15 a.m., his day was already broken. His teacher, Mrs. Aldridge, held his assignment between two fingers as if it were a piece of trash, her voice sharp enough to slice the room in half. "So," she said loudly, "you expect us to believe this, Malik? Your father, a high-ranking military officer." 28 students stared at Malik like he had claimed his dad was the king of Mars. His hands trembled on his desk. "Yes, ma'am," he whispered. "It's true." Mrs. Aldridge's smile was thin and bitter. "Sweetheart, your dad works at the warehouse off 7th Street. The one with the rusted trucks." A few kids snickered. Malik's cheeks burned. "My dad doesn't work there," he said softly. "He just picks up packages sometimes. His real job is—" "Stop." Her voice cracked like thunder. "Enough with the stories. You wrote that your father is a 4-star general. Do you have any idea how ridiculous that is?" She held up his paper, and for a moment Malik thought she might tear it. "Why do you need to invent such things?" She looked him up and down. "Kids like you don't come from families like that." The room went silent. Malik felt something inside him fold in half. 2 hours earlier, the morning had been peaceful. His father had woken him with a gentle nudge, still wearing his running gear from his dawn workout. The apartment was small but warm, filled with the smell of coffee and Malik's favorite maple oatmeal. His father, always calm, always steady, sat with him before school. "Big day, son," he'd said with a soft grin. "Career day? I'll be there right after my briefing." Malik had beamed. "In uniform?" His dad winked. "Full dress. Just for you." Now, sitting in his classroom, all that excitement felt far away. Mrs. Aldridge crossed her arms. "Malik, stand up." His legs shook as he rose. "Tell the class the truth. What does your father really do?" "My dad," Malik whispered, "serves our country." "Oh, please," she snapped. "Your father is a warehouse laborer. That is all." Then she leaned closer, voice cold enough to freeze him in place. "And next time you lie in my classroom, there will be consequences." Malik swallowed hard. His father's words echoed in his mind. "Stand tall, even when others don't see you." He lifted his chin just a little. "My dad is a general," he said quietly. Gasps. A few parents visiting early looked uncomfortable. Mrs. Aldridge's face tightened in fury. "Principal's office." Now. Malik reached for his backpack, blinking away tears, but before he stepped into the hallway, he whispered a single sentence that made the entire class freeze. "He'll be here at 10 o'clock. Then you'll see." Mrs. Aldridge scoffed. "We'll see nothing except the truth." But she had no idea what was already unfolding outside the school. 3 black SUVs approaching Maplewood's front gate, carrying the man she believed could not possibly exist. Malik's father was coming. And he was not just arriving. He was arriving in full uniform, with 4 silver stars gleaming on his shoulders, ready to walk into the very room where his son had been called a liar. Malik's sneakers squeaked softly as he walked down the hallway, each step heavier than the last. He tried to blink away the sting in his eyes, but the humiliation clung to him like a shadow. Every word Mrs. Aldridge had thrown at him replayed in his mind. "Kids like you. Ridiculous story. Consequences." He had faced hard days before, but never one that cut this deep. At the far end of the hall, the principal's office door glowed like a warning sign. Inside, Mr. Clark, the vice principal, sat behind his polished desk, flipping through a folder. "Malik," he sighed without looking up. Mrs. Aldridge called. "What's this I hear about you disrupting career day?" Malik swallowed. "I wasn't disrupting anything, sir." Mr. Clark finally looked at him, eyebrows raised. "You told your class your father is a 4-star general." "That's because he is," Malik whispered. A slow, disappointed shake of the head. "Son, you must understand. Inventing stories may get you attention, but it damages trust." "I'm not inventing anything." Mr. Clark leaned back. "Your family file says your father works for a logistics contractor. No mention of military service. Nothing classified. Nothing heroic." "He puts that on the forms for security," Malik insisted. "He told me." "Enough," Mr. Clark said firmly. "Return to class. Apologize. Rewrite your assignment honestly. Career Day is for celebrating real jobs, not fantasies." The word fantasies hit Malik harder than the others. His chest tightened. His father had been deployed 6 times. He'd missed birthdays, holidays, school plays, all for the country. And still no one believed his truth. As Malik walked back toward the classroom, voices drifted from inside. Parents had gathered now, sitting in chairs along the walls. Mrs. Aldridge stood confidently at the front, ready to present herself as the wise adult correcting a misguided child. The moment Malik entered, she didn't wait. "Class," she announced. "Malik has something to say." Dozens of eyes pinned him to the floor. Parents, students, teachers, all watching. "Go on," she pressed. "Tell everyone the truth." Malik's hands shook, but he remembered his dad's words. Stand tall even when your truth is uncomfortable for others. So he lifted his chin and said the most dangerous thing he could. "My story is already true." Gasps. A few parents exchanged confused looks. Mrs. Aldridge's eyes narrowed. "Malik," she said sharply, "your father is not coming here today." "Yes, he is. At 10. "That's impossible." "That's what you think," Malik whispered. Mrs. Aldridge stepped closer, voice low but audible. "Your father is not a general. Children from your neighborhood do not come from military leadership. It's unrealistic." A wave of shame rippled through him. He clenched his fists. Then something changed. A soft buzz hummed through the hallway. People near the windows turned. A parent whispered, "Who are those men?" Another said, "Why are there SUVs outside?" Mrs. Aldridge frowned. "Please remain seated." But the murmurs grew. A flash of deep blue uniform appeared at the doorway window. Shoulders squared. Rows of medals. And on each shoulder, for silver stars that glinted like truth finally breaking through a storm. For the first time all morning, Malik exhaled. His father had arrived, and the entire room was about to discover just how wrong they had been. The classroom door opened slowly, but the effect was instant. Every voice died, every whisper froze. Even Mrs. Aldridge's confidence seemed to crack like thin glass. Standing in the doorway was a man who looked like he stepped out of a military portrait. Tall, composed, shoulders broad beneath the deep blue dress uniform. His medals shimmered in perfect rows. But nothing drew more attention than the 4 silver stars gleaming on each shoulder. A 4-star general. Gasps filled the room. Parents rose instinctively. Mrs. Aldridge's face drained of color. Malik stood rooted to the floor, disbelief and relief crashing together inside him. The man stepped forward with measured calm, boots striking the tiles in quiet, deliberate beats. Behind him, 2 security officers waited outside, hands folded, scanning the hallway. Not a word was spoken until the general's eyes found Malik. "Son," he said gently, "I came as fast as I could." Malik felt his throat tighten. "Dad." General Johnson crossed the room in 3 firm strides and knelt down, resting one strong hand on Malik's shoulder. "You all right?" Malik nodded, though the tears he'd fought all morning threatened to spill. They didn't believe me." The general's jaw tensed. He rose to his full height, turning to face the room. "Which one of you is Mrs. Aldridge?" She stepped forward, shaking. "General, I didn't realize." "No," he said calmly. "You didn't." His voice was soft, but carried the weight of command. "My son was accused of lying. Publicly. Repeatedly. Humiliated in front of his peers." Parents shifted uncomfortably. Students stared wide-eyed. "I asked him to stay humble," the general continued. "But I did not ask him to endure disrespect. Or assumptions." His eyes locked on Mrs. Aldridge. "Tell me, ma'am, what made my son's truth so impossible for you to believe?" Mrs. Aldridge opened her mouth, but words tangled in her throat. I thought his background, his home, it didn't match." "Match what?" the general asked quietly. "Your picture of what a military family looks like, or what a general's son should be." A parent whispered, "My God." General Johnson's gaze swept the room. "For 30 years I've served this country. I've commanded troops overseas, briefed presidents, stood on battlefields praying my soldiers made it home. But never have I seen someone look at my child and tell him he wasn't allowed to speak the truth." Mrs. Aldridge's chin trembled. "I'm so sorry, sir." "Don't apologize to me," he said. "Apologize to him." The teacher turned to Malik, tears filling her eyes. "Malik, I was wrong. I am deeply sorry for doubting you. I hurt you. I judged you unfairly. You didn't deserve any of it." Malik swallowed hard. He looked at his father. The general gave a single, slow nod. "Permission." "It's okay to make mistakes," Malik whispered. "Just believe us next time." A hush fell over the room. Parents stared at Malik with new respect. Students watched him like he was someone transformed. Then General Johnson addressed the class. Children, listen well. The truth doesn't choose a neighborhood. It doesn't choose a skin color. It doesn't choose who deserves to be believed. He rested his hand on Malik's shoulder. Sometimes, the smallest voice carries the biggest truth. A soft ripple of emotion moved through the room. Career day would never be the same again. What came next would change the entire school. The room remained frozen long after the general finished speaking, as if everyone feared that even breathing too loudly might break the moment. Mrs. Aldridge stood trembling beside her desk, clutching the torn remains of her authority. Parents exchanged uneasy looks, ashamed they had watched Malik being humiliated without stepping in. Students whispered among themselves, suddenly seeing Malik not as the quiet boy from the old brick apartment, but as someone far braver than any of them had realized. General Johnson exhaled slowly, letting his shoulders relax as he turned his attention to the students. His voice softened. Some of you know what it feels like when adults dismiss your words. When people judge you before listening. When your truth gets lost under someone else's assumptions. A few children nodded, especially the ones from Malik's neighborhood. They understood too well. But, the general continued, your truth remains your truth. It does not become smaller just because others refuse to see it. Malik felt his chest warm. His father always spoke calmly, but his words carried power. Even Mrs. Aldridge watched him like she was listening to a sermon meant directly for her soul. I didn't come here today to embarrass anyone, the general said. I came because my son needed to know that his voice is worth standing beside. He placed a gentle hand on Malik's shoulder. No rank matters more than that. Parents shifted, some wiping their eyes. The tension in the room began to loosen. Principal Reed slipped in quietly, hands clasped, face tight with concern. She cleared her throat. General Johnson, thank you for coming. We were unaware of what happened this morning. The general nodded politely. I believe you. He looked around the room. But now you are aware. And awareness means responsibility. Mrs. Aldridge stepped forward. Sir, I'm truly sorry. I let my assumptions blind me. I shouldn't have based anything on where Malik lives or the way he looks. I judged him. I violated his trust. The general didn't glare or raise his voice. He simply asked, will it happen again? No, she whispered. Not ever. Malik swallowed. A part of him still hurt, but hearing her say those words felt like a wound finally beginning to close. Principal Reed stepped in. Class, I think we should take a moment to let General Johnson share about his career, if he's willing. He nodded once. Of course. He walked to the front of the classroom, where earlier Malik had been forced to defend himself alone. Now the room leaned forward with anticipation. He began slowly, not with rank, not with glory, but with humanity. When I was your age, I lived in a neighborhood much like Malik's. I didn't have much, but I had people who believed in me. Teachers who listened before correcting. Adults who saw potential instead of limits. He paced the room, voice steady, almost gentle. I joined the army at 17. I worked my way up one step at a time. Nothing was handed to me. Every stripe, every star, I earned by serving others. The students watched wide-eyed. I've led troops through storms, deserts, and nights so dark you can't see your own hands. I've carried soldiers off battlefields. I've stood in silence with families receiving flags folded into perfect triangles. Even the parents leaned forward, breath-catching. But in all my years, he said softly, nothing matters more than being a father. Nothing matters more than the truth of a child. He turned toward Malik again. And no one should ever be punished for speaking the truth about someone they love. Tears stung Malik's eyes. He whispered, thank you, Dad. A ripple of emotion swept through the class. The general paused, scanning the room. Does anyone have questions? Dozens of hands shot up at once. A small girl asked timidly, is it scary being a general? The general smiled warmly. Sometimes. But bravery isn't the absence of fear. It's doing what's right even when you're afraid. A boy asked, do generals ever cry? Yes, the general said without hesitation. Especially when their children are hurt. Malik blinked hard. His father placed a gentle hand on his back. Mrs. Aldridge stepped closer, her voice barely above a whisper. General, may I speak with Malik privately afterward? He studied her for a long moment, then nodded. If Malik agrees. Malik hesitated, then whispered, okay. The general gave his presentation for several more minutes, answering every question with patience and sincerity. His presence filled the room like a protective shield, reshaping every shadow that had haunted Malik that morning. When he finished, the parents applauded, not because of his rank, but because of the undeniable truth he carried with him. As the general moved toward Malik's desk, he leaned close and murmured, "You were brave today, son. Braver than you know." Malik inhaled slowly. The morning's pain didn't vanish, but it felt lighter, bearable, because now the whole world could see the truth he had carried alone. And this was only the beginning of how everything would change. After the applause died down and the room's tension melted into quiet awe, Principal Reed gently dismissed the parents for a short break. Students whispered excitedly, still processing the surreal moment of having a four-star general standing in their classroom. Malik remained seated, gripping the edge of his desk, heart steady for the first time all morning. Mrs. Aldridge approached slowly, clutching her hands together as though afraid they might shake. "Malik," she said softly, "would you step outside with me for a moment?" Malik looked at his father. The general met his eyes with calm assurance. "It's your choice, son. You're in control." Malik inhaled deeply. "I'll go." Together, he and Mrs. Aldridge stepped into the hallway. The door closed behind them, muffling the murmurs of excited classmates. The hallway felt too bright, too quiet. For a moment, they just stood there. Then Mrs. Aldridge finally spoke, her voice trembling. "Malik, I owe you the kind of apology I should have given you the moment you walked back into the room." Malik stared at the floor. "Okay, I didn't doubt you because your story was unbelievable," she said. "I doubted you because I was trapped in my own assumptions. I saw where you came from, how you dressed, who you sat with. I thought I understood you without ever listening to you." She swallowed hard. "That was wrong. Cruel. Disrespectful. And it hurt you in ways you should never have been hurt." Malik's throat tightened. He didn't speak. Mrs. Aldridge continued, voice breaking. "You told the truth. And instead of protecting you, I silenced you. I tore up your work. I humiliated you. And I did it publicly, without giving you even a chance to be heard." A tear slipped down her cheek. "I am so deeply sorry, Malik. Not because your father proved me wrong, but because you deserved to be believed long before he walked in." Malik finally lifted his eyes. "You really didn't think kids like me could have parents like him?" The question hung in the hallway like a painful truth exposed. Mrs. Aldridge nodded, ashamed. "I didn't. And that says more about me than it ever did about you." Malik's small hands curled around the straps of his backpack. "It really hurt." "I know," she whispered. "And I want to fix what I can. I want to be better. For you. For every student I teach from now on." He looked at her for a long moment, weighing her words, his heart still sore, but not closed. "My dad says mistakes happen, but what you do after, that shows who you are." Her breath caught. "He's right. And I'm ready to do the work." A small voice inside Malik loosened. "Okay," he said. "Not forgiveness. Not yet. But a beginning." When they walked back into the classroom, the general watched his son carefully. Malik gave a tiny nod, a signal only a father would understand. "I'm okay." Principal Reed stepped forward. "If it's all right with you, General Johnson, we'd like to hold a quick meeting with the staff after this presentation. What happened today, we need to address it properly." The general nodded. "Good. Change begins with conversation." Mrs. Aldridge cleared her throat. "And I'd like to volunteer for whatever training or program we start. I want to be part of the solution." Several parents murmured approval. Students returned to their seats, but something had shifted. They looked at Malik not with pity, not with confusion, but with respect. Desmond, Malik's closest friend, whispered, "Dude, your dad is awesome." Malik cracked a small smile. "Yeah, I know." Principal Reed announced, "Before we end career day, I think it's only fair we let Malik share his assignment properly." The room erupted in soft cheers. Malik stood, holding the clean copy his father handed him earlier. His voice was steady as he read. "My dad serves this country. He leads with honor, listens before acting, and believes every voice matters, especially the voices people ignore." When he finished, the entire room applauded. The general rested a hand on his son's shoulder. "Proud of you," he whispered. And for the first time that day, Malik believed it fully, not just because of his father's stars, but because he had stood tall when the world doubted him. But the story was not over. The biggest transformation was still ahead, and it would reshape the entire school. The bell for the end of career day never felt so symbolic. Students drifted out with buzzing excitement, Parents shook hands with one another, and teachers lingered in small clusters, whispering about the moment a four-star general walked into their classroom and changed everything. But Malik remained beside his father, holding tightly to the command coin the general had given him, smooth, heavy, and full of meaning. Principal Reed approached them. "General, if you have a few minutes, we'd like to speak privately with the staff." Today was eye-opening. The general nodded. "Lead the way." They entered the meeting room, where teachers sat anxiously. Mrs. Aldrich, Mr. Clark, several aides, and the counselor. Some looked ashamed, others curious, all humbled. The room felt heavy until Principal Reed spoke. "We failed Malik this morning, and it's time for us to change how we see our students." The general stepped forward. "Children are honest far more often than adults assume. When they share their truth, their world, their family, we owe them belief before judgment." Mrs. Aldrich wiped her eyes silently. The general continued, "Bias is not always loud. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it hides behind experience or assumptions. But its impact can break a child's confidence in seconds." Mr. Clark lowered his gaze, remembering how quickly he dismissed Malik. Principal Reed announced, "Starting next week, Maplewood Elementary will launch a program for staff. Real training, not surface-level workshops. We will confront our blind spots, our biases, our habits, and we will learn to listen." The staff nodded. Even the ones who looked resistant didn't dare argue. Then Mrs. Aldrich stood, shaky but determined. "I want to begin by saying this to every colleague here. I failed Malik not because he lied, but because I assumed he would. If I had listened for one more second, I could have spared him pain." She held up the command coin the general had given her earlier. "This will stay on my desk forever. Not as a badge, but as a reminder of the cost of my assumptions." Several teachers murmured agreement. General Johnson glanced at Malik. "Son, would you like to say anything?" Malik blinked in surprise. Adults rarely asked him to speak in staff meetings. He stepped forward, voice small but steady. "I just want teachers to know, sometimes kids tell big stories because they're proud, or scared, or excited. And maybe we don't explain things the way adults expect. But that doesn't mean we're lying." Silence. A deep, reflective silence. Malik added, "Please listen to us. Even if it sounds impossible." Mrs. Aldrich pressed a hand to her heart. "We will, Malik. I promise." The general placed a hand on Malik's shoulder. "Well said, son." The meeting ended with a mixture of shame and hope, as though everyone understood they'd witnessed something that would change them long after the uniforms and visitors left. The following months transformed Maplewood Elementary. Posters appeared in every classroom. "Listen first. Assume nothing." Students were trained to speak up when they felt unheard. Teachers practiced empathy, not authority. And Mrs. Aldrich became the loudest voice for change, volunteering for every training session, leading discussions about bias, even sharing her mistake with other schools. By winter, Maplewood had become known for something rare, a school where all truths were welcomed. One crisp Friday, parents gathered for the first Truth and Trust Assembly, run entirely by students. Malik stood at the podium, heart thumping. His classmates watched. Mrs. Aldrich watched. His father, off duty and in a simple shirt, watched from the front row. Malik took a breath. 3 months ago, I was scared to tell the truth. Now I'm not. Because this school listens. Cheers roared around the gym. "And if you ever think your voice doesn't matter," Malik continued, "remember one thing. Truth doesn't need anyone's permission." His father clapped the loudest. That evening at home, Malik curled up on the couch next to his dad. "Do you think things really changed?" he asked. The general wrapped an arm around him. "Not just here. You changed something bigger. You made people question the way they see others." Malik smiled softly. "I didn't mean to. Most heroes don't," his father said gently. The apartment was quiet, warm, safe. Malik held the command coin again, feeling its weight, feeling his own courage reflected in it. He wasn't just the boy from the old apartment anymore. He was the boy who stood in the truth, even when no one believed him. And because of that, an entire school learned to listen.